Hello, hello, most beautiful stars. Hello, hello. I see Lori all of a sudden came in the chat. Nice to see you, Lori. I'm Courtney, host of Stars of the Morning Light, and you are listening to Edgar Cayce Life Skills Studies. Oh my goodness, everyone. We are in the last chapter of Secrets of the Universe and How to Use Them, the 1989 edition. I'm excited. I'm happy that we're finishing it. Many months ago, I put a poll out there with, I think, like 4 or 5 different Edgar books um, to choose from. And the poll, the majority wanted to go to his book about reincarnation, which I do not have in front of me, but that is where we're headed, everybody. And it is late at night. I'm not even situated. How about we all get nice and cozy and situated? I normally do this in the morning or afternoon. So, whatever time you're catching this, good day, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time it is for you. Before we jump in, I want to tell everybody that the next couple of Fridays, it might end up being the next 3 Fridays, but I'm going to try to put it into 2. We are actually going to be covering this Rudolf Steiner, as my fingers are in front of it. I will not be reading it word by word, of course. That is not allowed. Michael Mass. There's reasons why we're going to be going through this for the next few Fridays live at 11 a.m. Rudolf Steiner. We love Rudolf Steiner. He's kind of part of the whole spiritualist time period as to why we started this Edgar Cayce life skill study in the first place. We wanted to take what was going on 100 years ago and bring it up to today and just keep talking about Edgar Cayce, from his predictions to his skills to his life. We cover across the board. Usually you will see in the title, either we're in a book or we're in his bio. So that is what you're catching right now. Why don't you go right ahead and hit those thumbs up for me? You're not going to miss anything by doing so. Good to see you, Centurion Sun. Hello, hello. Because I am live, I do try to say hello to everybody that comes in eventually at some point, because we are a community here. We are a bunch of lovely stars that shine together. Oh, it's so wonderful. I am so, I think community, if I had to rate my values or list my values, I think community would probably be, I don't know, like number 1. That's how much I stress community. And we are a community of lovely stars here at Stars of the Morning Light. All right, lovely people. Last chapter. It's been a journey with this book. We started this book many, many, many moons ago. And I'm grateful that we're finishing it, and we're finishing it off on a good positive note. And it actually correlates to a video I did just a few weeks ago for Friday Live at 11 a.m. when I was talking about what's a human, and the conversation of soul versus spirit kind of came up. Well, thank goodness for Edgar Cayce, because he's going to back me up on a lot of things. So good stuff is about to come. We're going to learn a lot. And there's only a few pages left. And we have successfully, everyone, you got through this whole book. Pat yourself on the back. Yes. You might as well have read it yourself. We thoroughly went through it. We did it together. So good job, everyone. All right, we are in chapter 18, and it's Secrets of the Spirit. In this chapter, like I said, she's basically going to be talking about spirit. in ways that I approach often, but not everybody kind of catches on or might question why I say the words that I say. And so this is going to be, um, I guess, a full dialogue about the differences and how we can have discernment and what is what, especially in today's world, because we're bringing this information from 100 years ago during the spiritualist movement forward 100 years to now. And remember, this book was also written in 1989, which is what, almost 80 years ago. I mean 40 years ago. Oh, maybe I'm feeling like it's 80 years ago right now. 40 years ago, though, that's still almost. We will all see those 40 years. Um, that's still quite a difference. I mean, think of all the technology that's come out since 1989. Think of all the multiple generations of humans that have been born and live or living during that. It's a lot can happen. All right. So I'm going to read a little bit. The vastness of the idea of spirit as the life must be grasped before any comprehension of the interconnectedness to other souls, known as oneness, can be achieved. Hmm. Written in 1989, and they're using terms like oneness. When we hear that now almost to a level of cliche. The vastness of the idea of spirit as the life, and spirit and life are capitalized here. The vastness of the idea of spirit as the life must be grasped before any comprehension of the interconnectedness to other souls, known as oneness, can be achieved. I'm going to keep going, folks. In Chapter 6, Secrets of the Soul's World, which we did cover, spirit is described as the creator's soul, the Father's soul, God's soul, the universal soul, life's soul, the soul of all nature, infinity and infinite energy, the soul of the soul, yours and mine. In other words, you have a soul, or I have a soul, and the creator has a soul. Your soul has a soul. Sorry. Your soul has a soul. My soul has a soul. A tree has a soul. The soul of your soul, the soul of my soul, the soul of a tree, and the creator's soul is the same soul. It is the spirit who serves by giving life non selectively and is feminine. Okay, we're going to pause, folks. We're going to pause. Okay, lovely people. And I see Max came in. Good to see you, sir. Okay, so first of all, they gave a whole lot of titles there as to what spirit is described as. So think of when people say creator, father, God, um, inf- uh, energy, universal spirit. That's where she starts because we are going to be moving into other aspects of the term spirit. And we've heard a lot of dialogue about this on Stars of the Morning Light. Um, so we, but right now, we're just staying right there. But then she starts talking about the soul. Your soul, my soul, a tree's soul, everybody's soul, the soul of the creator. The soul of the creator, not spirit, the soul. And the creator's soul is the same soul. It is the spirit who serves by giving life non selectively and is feminine. Now, we're going to pause with the feminine and masculine for a moment. When she's talking about that, she is talking about like that universal energy that runs through everybody. She's trying to, in a lot of words, explain what interconnection is, right? That oneness. What connects everybody is the spirit. Okay. Now, when she goes into saying feminine, that is mostly due to creation. But then she talks about how the Hebrews would put it as feminine. But then once it became a understanding in Greek, it became more masculine. Well, I'm sure all you beautiful stars here know that it's a great balance between both masculine and feminine. That it's got all the beautiful qualities of feminine and all the beautiful qualities of masculine within that infinite energy, right? So we've been through that before, especially in this material and in other material. We've been through the divine masculine, divine feminine, and the balance within. I think we need to move a bit to what she's talking about, this spirit, opposed to a soul. At the very end of this chapter, she does say it's two different things, which is what I spoke about a couple of weeks ago live on Friday. That it's two separate things. Spirit and soul are two separate things. And how she kind of tries to describe it is take an apple. Well, you have the outer layer of the apple that kind of supports the growth and all the nutrients inside the apple peel, right? And is there to protect and serve, and it's not judging that it's an apple. But when we remove that peel, everything inside will die away. Now, we understand that an apple is going to die away eventually, anyways. But she was trying to use that as a metaphor when she starts talking about spirit and soul. We will come back to that, but I want to introduce that concept. I might use a different metaphor. So then she goes into, wow, but spirit can also symbolize a bunch of stuff, a ton of things. I'll just read a little bit. She says, to discern someone's spirit means to perceive what's transpiring within, right? What motivates them. She then goes on, therefore, what the spirit of truth shows us is a person's motivation. Learning to discern the motivating force behind words or actions is not the same as judging or condemning. It is more a matter of perceiving and then understanding their spirit. Interesting, right? She will say that the feminine aspect of the spirit is your comforter, right? It comforts you. And this is more biblically based because, well, the Holy Spirit's referred to as a comforter, a healer, um, a helper multiple times in the New Testament. So it is more feminine based. I remember when I first kind of caught on to that. And then I talked to who was my Christian mentor at the time, and she went, um, she didn't know what to do with it. She didn't disagree, but I was like, those are all feminine qualities. So isn't it the father, the mother, and son then probably? Yeah, I was a troublesome. And I was like well into my 30s. Anyways, so then she talks about how the spirit also holds truth. that it's the full truth. She introduces this idea of more masculine, like logic, as you're being comforted to have that logic, to have that reasoning, truth comes in. And that is more of the genuine spirit that she's talking about of the creator, the universal energy, as people might say. As she then starts talking about, well, there's all sorts of different forms of spirit, though. How someone acts, how we use our words, our actions, right? How we demonstrate ourselves, how we manifest things into being as through demonstrating. Is that our spirit? She said, as we perceive them, we are actually trying to discern if they are with spirit or not. We are trying to discern what type of spirit are they carrying, opposed to soul. Fascinating, right? So I said maybe 3 weeks ago on that Friday morning live that everyone has a consciousness. Everyone has a soul. Not everyone has what might be referenced the God spark, the flame, the spirit. Not everyone has that. That's what I told the whole world who listens maybe 3 weeks ago. Not everyone innately has that. Can it flow in and out? Of course, because it's a part of everything. But that interlocking spirit, not everybody has that. She even says at the end, I'm going to go to it. There is a vast difference between spirit and soul. Unlike spirit, the soul does develop. In much the same way a human mind develops as it opens itself to knowledge, the soul develops as it opens itself to the unseen. The spirit has no need to develop. It is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It always has. The spirit cannot die or be separated from the maker. The soul can. The soul, like the apple's peel, will wither and disappear if the spirit leaves it. The soul gives life to the flesh and the blood body, but spirit gives life to the soul. Spirit, the soul of life, is non-selective. Spirit animates all life, that perceived as good as well as perceived as evil. Soul, however, is selective. Soul can and must choose, through its free will mind, how it will end up. The soul's experience must be finished before the entity may either, be blotted out or come into full brotherhood. The soul can will its own banishment, said Cayce. Please understand that. Cayce even said, the soul, not spirit, not spirit, the soul can will its own banishment. And then she goes on to explain spirit is like electricity, music, and mathematics, in that it simply exists in the universe. The soul lives through the power of the spirit, but it is transformed through the mind. The ideal is the transform conductor of spirit. It could be said then that spirit becomes Holy Spirit when it is transformed through Christ's mind. Now, do remember that a lot of material with Edgar Cayce is Christ conscious based. The last line of this chapter is just as lights shine on the earth because the proper electrical connection has been made, so shines the soul in the universe when the ideal is being lived. Now, if you want more about the ideal, it is back in previous episodes. There is a playlist of Edgar Cayce life skill studies. We talked a lot about the ideal. Basically, what is your soul here to do? Why does your soul decide to come or not come? Be attached, be not attached, banish itself or not banish itself? I have spoken many, many times about the power of the human free will. I don't know how to stress it. I really don't, everybody. I don't know how to stress how powerful the human free will is, to the point the soul can will its own banishment. A spirit doesn't die. Spirit just flows. Spirit is what glues everything together if it needs to be glued, right? If we acknowledge it, don't acknowledge it, the spirit's just moving right along, moving through all. It's present throughout all time and space, right? Spirit. That does not mean that an individual human's free will, conscious mind that has been developing a soul, we're going to go back to that, been developing a soul, as I spoke about 3 weeks ago, will even choose to allow spirit to fully integrate into them, to acknowledge that spirit even flows around through with them, right? Does not mean that they will choose to acknowledge that. Does not mean that they will choose to acknowledge that they might not have spirit truly involved in their actions and motivations and what is influencing them. They might not choose that. Free will is so, I don't even know if there's a word for how mighty it is. So interesting, right? That spirit is what flows. Spirit trees. Oh, I know so many of these beautiful stars here. We love our trees, right? We love our trees. I have Willie in the backyard all the time, big ash tree that I'm like, hey, what's going on with the weather? What's going on here? Shoot, I might cry to Willie. I don't know. I hang out with Willie. We love all of the animals, all of the nature, spirit. It's because it's animating, and we are perceiving, we are seeing and feeling and experiencing more spirit within the nature. We also can do that with one-on-one connections. We can also do this with a group of people, like a community, especially if we're coming together with one soul, goal, and the vibes are good and music is going and things are gelling right. We can see and feel and experience spirit like that. We can also, though, as she did describe, there's a lot of different forms of spirit. And I have spoken about this, that I don't, as a psychic, as a healer, as a reader, whatever title you want to throw on me, because I'm not cool with titles. I could care less what you call me. You can call me Court. There you go. many people will say, this is a message from spirit, or spirit told me this, or spirit told me that. And it seems like in today's world, man, spirit is talking to a lot of people, a lot of people. And I have said this numerous times that back when, especially 100 years ago in the spiritualist movement, the wiser ones would be more weary about that because they understood that spirits, quote unquote, energy can kind of roll through the land as energy moves and sways and blows in the wind, that it's an influence, that it might not be um the grand, beautiful creator of love and light as people think it is. It could be just a spirit that's blowing through the land, right? It could be just something to influence the minds of others. And so when we hear these things, I hear it often. I mean, that it's even a hashtag. It's a hashtag. It's a clickbait or clickbait. I mean, it's used all the time, especially with readers, especially with psychics. Spirit told me this. Spirit told me that. What I always in my head, the moment I hear it, if I don't know that person and I'm not close to them, my first thought is usually which spirit, which spirit, because they use it in this universal way, and it's not usually the case. There's many spirits as we come to learn. So it's just have discernment. There's a whole section here, small section, about having that discernment, that we have to discern as we start with how we perceive someone's actions and doings and words. So to discern someone's spirit means to perceive what's transpiring within. We do it in every day, or we do it every day in routine conversation with our associates. And each person standing before you, the Spirit of God, which non selectively animates all life in the universe, is present. So pause there. Breathe those words in, folks. Really listen to that. The Spirit of God, which non selectively, I had just read a few moments ago, there's no concept of good or bad. The Spirit of God non selectively animates all life in the universe, is present when you're sitting there talking to your associates, because life is there, because life is a part of you communicating. Life is there. Therefore, Spirit of God, universal spirit, creation, what have you, is there. It's present. It's non selective. It does not judge good or bad. When spirit leaves, life leaves. The soul of this person's soul is the same as your soul's soul. Never mind. I'm going to skip that. Oh, goodness. She's trying to go into how to not judge, that the spirit of the creator is without judgment. That's what she was trying to go into. For those who are new to listening to this book has been a bit difficult to translate via just reading. Um, in my humble opinion, it's not written the best, but I also, my heart goes out to this poor woman who had to go through the effort to try to do this. Therefore, what the Spirit of Truth shows us in a person's motivation Learning to discern the motivating force behind words or actions is not the same as judging or command or condemning. It is more a matter of perceiving and then understanding their spirit. It is a way of seeing our options concerning this person. Discernment carries over into our decisions and choices concerning organizations, groups, ideas. It is equally important to discern the spirit in which we act. In the case of being faced by a mugger with a knife, the spirit in which we act may be in the spirit of universal law of self preservation. Under less extreme circumstances, a more leisurely examination of our motivations concerning the various relationships which comprise society may prove revealing. So this is her examples of what I was just talking about as far as spirit. She did use the example of like a spirit moving through the land type of thing, like what's influencing. But she really focused on in 1989, you guys will love this. We only have to look around us to see what has been society's God. We only have to compare our society, which bows down to the God of technology. In 1989. And then she goes from the god of technology influencing people to then the god of commercialism. It's almost impossible to live in this country without giving a passing nod to the great idol commercialism residing. We are told on Madison Avenue in New York City. Its doctrine is simple: buy or die a lonely death. Discerning the spirit behind the dogma is easy, manipulative greed. But the secret to who, what, and how spirit moves lies less in the eyes that look outward on society and more in the eyes that look inward to the soul. So please, I said I'm going to be covering Rudolf Steiner starting on Friday morning at 11 a.m. We are going to be talking about some Rudolf Steiner. Rudolf Steiner would say it's Ahriman who's influencing all sorts of stuff, who controls a lot of the spirit that influences the commercialism, the technology, that we live in. She also then goes into talking about what kind of spirit. Is it an entity? And I am going through all that stuff with the lovely patrons of Stars of the Morning Light right now with our mediumship work. I had to start with the different kind of variations of we have to be careful when we think, oh, it's just maybe a spirit, hence like disembodied being ghost, because though that energy can change greatly over time, and there could be trickster spirits, right? There could be trickster entities. Hence, though, a part of the whole. She's trying to have people understand this concept of the actual spirit, the spirit of creation, feminine, masculine, divine, the first thought, word, the light that penetrated into the void, however someone needs to see it, however someone views it. Grand creator energy, source energy, right? She is trying to establish that the term spirit can be used for all sorts of various things, and it is up to us to understand the discernment of it, because spirit in the sense of source energy, quote unquote, is always present. It's present right now. I'm communicating. I'm alive. So therefore, it is present. But am I one of those humans that is conscious of that divine flame within and operating as such? Do I even have one as such, as we talked about 3 weeks ago? Is my free will overriding like everything? I really can't stress to you how much our human free will can literally override all sorts of stuff. If we are stuck in our minds, or if we are stuck in the negative, if we are stuck in what's the point of this life, our human free will start making a whole lot of decisions that spirit's not thinking about. Your soul is going, whoa, okay, I guess I'm here for the ride. Remember, she did say, as Cayce had written, I'll say it again because everybody really needs to understand this. There's a vast difference between spirit and soul. Unlike spirit, the soul does develop. So I had talked about all the lives that you live, all the lives that you live. Your consciousness keeps coming back. That beautiful consciousness that started as a little baby consciousness. It had a life. It learned some stuff. Came back. It had a life. Learned some more stuff. Had a life. Came back. Learned some more stuff. All these people that want to talk about karma and dharma and past lives and these lessons, quote unquote. I will tell everyone right now, and I'm standing firm to this, there's really not that many lessons. There's really not. Love. Love. But the magnitude of, and all the little parts of constantly, nonstop choosing love, that's why people think there's lessons, quote unquote. It's just love. When the humans learn how to love, the world will change. I cannot tell you the amount of prophecies and or texts that would say that. When humans learn how to love, the world will change. So all these quote unquote lessons that people are learning is literally to just choose love every single time. Compassion for self and others. Lay down judgment. You know. So your consciousness keeps coming back, learning more, growing and growing into one form or another, then another form, then another form. And all that while your soul is developing with that consciousness. Your soul is growing along with it. If we could see the consciousness as the knowledge and the soul as all the experiences that make us human, right? The soul that has all the experiences attached to it and the consciousness that knows. Oh, what a beautiful pair. The soul that is so much more feminine and the consciousness that is so much more masculine that do this beautiful dance together. It's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. Does not mean that those two that are dancing, that are having a good time, that are enjoying themselves, does not mean that they know that spirit is present. Does not mean that they know that they can inherit a God spark, a God flame. Does not know that going out into nature would do them some good. So, unlike spirit, the soul does develop in much the same way the human mind develops as it opens itself to knowledge. The soul develops as it opens itself to the unseen. You all can take that the way you want. I like to leave that there. The soul develops as it opens itself to the unseen. The spirit has no need to develop. It is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It is. The spirit, it is. So, I'm curious as to what you guys think when Casey's saying that the soul can will itself to be banished. Not too many people talk about these things. Not too many people even know that this is possible. Not too many people know that the free will of a human can either banish or can end life or can sustain way past expiration date. Human free will consciousness with the soul truly overrides so much. It's also what can change your experience, our experience, on a dime. It can just flip it on a dime. I mean, it can. It's not spirit that does that. Spirit doesn't do that. No, no. We give so much power to um, a source that is always present, but does not have the judgment of right and wrong within it. So therefore is not making these big, huge decisions as people think it is, as people give it the power as. It's still all humans are giving their power over to a power that could care less. This is why you'll never hear me say, I think I said it once or twice recently because it was who I was in communication with. I do not use the word spirit told me. Spirit said this, spirit said that, because spirit's not going to. Spirit is just present. It is. Spirit's not going to make decisions like that for me. Spirit's also not going to be guiding me. Guides might guide me. The Akashic might guide me. My own soul consciousness, free will guide me, but spirit's not going to do that. And I know, so I just became very controversial here. I became very controversial. There is no judgment within spirit. No good, no evil, no right, no wrong. It is. So it's not here for that, for us. It is here because it is solely what flows through life. It is that thing that once you're capable of distinguishing, hey, how powerful your free will is, how mighty and ultimate and limitless your soul consciousness is, and then see that, perceive the life given to others via spirit and how they use it, how they use their conscious mind, soul. And you start then seeing the oneness, the interconnections, right? She opened up. She opened up. And I will tell you, the best way to get there is love, compassion for self and others. Compassion for self and others. She opened up with the vastness of the idea of spirit as the life. As the life, period. It is. Must be grasped before any comprehension of the interconnectedness to other souls, known as oneness, can be achieved. Spirit breathes life. She even went into the breath because the Hebrew word, oh goodness, I'm not going to remember how to pronounce it, for spirit is a feminine word, and it literally does mean, and I think she talked about it here. She did. Wind or breath or a blast of breath. And then it's interesting because then when it got to Greek and they were talking about spirit, it became the knowledge, right? It became the masculine, the logic. Both are at play. Your sacred breath of life, your sacred breath of life. I love our sacred breath of life, right? We breathe in, we exhale, right? That is spirit. That is spirit, right? If you want it down to like the little what it is, everything breathes. Everything breathes. So that you can say is spirit. That breath, that beautiful air and all the elements that work within it, that's not going to make your decisions for you. Not at all. So that's where we are at the end of Secrets of the Universe and how to use them. And how to use them. I do want to say that she did, for a moment, talk about the concept of spirit also being attached to like our emotion. So we know it if spirit in which we act is giving perfectly, deliciously, great moments of joy and great moments of loneliness. So you can have high spirits, you can have low spirits. She went into the kind of entities that are spirits. She talked about the influences, even just energy throughout the land. I have to say, I reached out, the patrons of Stars of the Morning Light, we meditate together on Sunday mornings. Those who can, and those who can't. No pressure. But it's to help each other manifest. And this past week, I said, I'm not even going to put anything out there for me. I don't know if people know this in the United States because I don't know if it's being covered on the news. I would, a lot of Tennessee, Georgia, and a bit of North Carolina. That's at least what I know from communicating with other humans that work in the systems or what have you. We are having like a serious issue of young people putting threats into schools. It could be a false one. It could be a real one, like what happened in Georgia. It could be, uh, it's just nonstop. And I'm being kind of cautious here as to how I say this or what I say. Um, you know, harm in numbers are being threatened. It was every week consecutively. And I think it's still even going on. And it is from middle school all the way up to college level, from all over Tennessee, northern Georgia, from like Atlanta upward, North Carolina, like I said. That, ladies and gentlemen, you beautiful stars, that's coming from somewhere. That's here on the internet somewhere, or a spirit moving throughout the land that is influencing young people in different locations. Hence why I don't use the term spirit. I do not say that spirit told me. And I don't mind if other people do. I'm not in judgment of them, but I don't, because I know that that's not how source energy works. But I do know that that is how people are influenced by things that they're unaware of. So we do have to have discernment. And we do need to acknowledge that our human free will, attached to our soul, that has lived so many times and experienced so much along with our consciousness, that it does know the right decisions to make. It does have the discernment. It does have the power. It does have all the capabilities that have always been within. So, what a weird note to end on. The reason why I say it's weird is because so many people, the spiritualist movement, even though it's called spiritualist, a lot of them didn't use that. And if they did, you knew that that was back then, you would be referred to as a charlatan. Unless you were um, maybe from different countries and or native, it was very rare for you to say spirit, because they also understood that spirit was other stuff. You'll find in that time period, I mean, many of them referred to, let's say, like the Spanish flu. I'm just using that as an example. Many referred to that as a spirit. Yeah, that was referred to as a spirit by a whole lot of people. Not medical, not virus. It was a spirit. So, at least in this country, the only ones that were really allowed to use that term in a way was native, but they actually wouldn't use that term as often. They would use maybe the exact identifying markers, the adjectives to it, like, you know, Sky Father, Earth Mother. They would put names to these spirits, quote unquote, same as others from wherever, Mongolia or all of them, across the board. The shaman would use actual titles. They wouldn't just say spirit. So let's just know, because we're coming 100 years forward, that this is just food for thought. Just food for thought, as in back in the spiritualist movement, if you use those words often without some kind of identifying adjective title to the spirit, you were not considered authentic. You were not considered authentic at all, more like a charlatan. So, food for thought, because people knew back then, they understood, they this stuff hadn't gotten lost in the mix yet. So, there you go, everybody. Yes, so Max just put in there like egregores, or collective mind entities. Yes, as a spirit in an interesting idea. Yes, yes. So Max brought up a good point here. Like egregores are like a spirit form that is created by a group and or two or three people. Um, Now I will say topas are also energy forms, but they're created by one person, usually unknowingly. So we have all these different energy forms, same thing, same thing. And he said, or a collective mind entities like spirits, right? That, like the kids right now in Tennessee, Georgia, and North Carolina. I don't know where that's coming from, but it's been multiple schools now. I don't know, but it's a thing that's us. I was always told as a child, I was always known that it is a spirit moving through the land. That is how it was spoken to me. And so we need to stop that spirit, right? We need that spirit to stop. We have that power within to say, stop that, stop. Because if it's just a spirit that's attached to all the source spirit that's also attached to us, our human free will can override it. And I can guarantee you, I don't know how to stress it. I don't know how to stress it. So I thank you all for coming. Centurion Sun, Lori, I know you were listening. Max, it's always good to have you, my dear. John, it was good. So this is called Edgar Cayce Life Skill Studies. And so every episode, we're either in his bio or in one of his materials. Everyone on a poll months ago wanted to, when we finished this one, The Secrets of the Universe and How to Use Them, they wanted to move to reincarnation. So we will be starting that very soon, everyone. It'll be fascinating to go through that. Um, and take what you want to leave the rest. If you use the term spirit, kudos to you. This is not in judgment, but many people just don't even know that anymore. Your soul is separate, it's different than spirit. Your soul has been with your consciousness developing over many, many, many of those reincarnated lives that we will talk about. Spirit is just present because it is life. And once we acknowledge that and we can see that, well, then the matrix becomes even bigger. Bye, guys. I'll talk to you later. Have a good night.